Hey, ain't no unzipping or nothing.
Say fuck what?
Shorty said, get out with it. Don't be scared, little fuck. Don't be scared, little fuck.
Oh, damn. Sooner than later, y'all. I'm tired of this. Come take me out there, cause I can't take it no more. Y'all be me off with that shit. Y'all been threatening me for 20 years, bro.
He talking about cut though.
I don't know how we. I'm gonna keep it on.
What you on,
Hey,
bro?
man. What's up?
Like me personally, I didn't like him. We had real beef. Like he said he was gonna kill my son, my baby mama, all type of shit. That's just type of he was though. It's like that, but the shit that he was doing led him to that. Cause who wants you that bad that as soon as you bonding out from the Cook County Jail with all these police around, it's like they put their freedom on the line. Like, all right, well, we finna do this right here. That was crazy.
Imagine this. You're inside a jail cell counting down the days, and finally the moment comes. You're told to pack up your stuff, and that rush of excitement hits you. You're walking out, feeling the fresh air for the first time in who knows how long, and you see your family waiting for you. You hug them, happy to be free, and as you're heading to the car, out of nowhere, bang. You're hit with such a massive spray of bullets, up to 64 rounds. What should have been a celebration of freedom turns into a brutal end.
Developing this afternoon, Chicago's top cop says 59 gun shell casings were found after the shooting of a rapper right outside the Cook County Jail.
Superintendent Brown.
That was the tragic reality for Londre Sylvester, also known as KTS Dre. So the question is, how dangerous could this guy have been that people were so determined to off him with up to 64 bullets? Well, apparently the answer is quite dangerous. It seems it was so bad that even the police chief couldn't help talking about it.
All these prior arrests, these serious felonies, these very violent crimes didn't keep him in jail.
Apparently his ops decided it was time to take him out since prison couldn't hold him. Anyway, let's dig into the deeper story.
A man named Londre Sylvester was leaving the jail. He went by the rap name KTS Dre. He'd just been bailed out, and police say he was ambushed by two men who got out of a vehicle near the jail. Sylvester was shot as many as 64 times.
Back in October 2018, KTS Dre had an ongoing beef with rivals from No Limit, specifically a member named Kyro. This wasn't your average street beef. It was out there for the world to see. The two of them went live on Instagram, going back and forth face to face for everyone to witness. Kyro started things off by asking Dre who was with him, and Dre responded by showing off a bunch of guns, clearly trying to flex. Kyro wasn't having it though and quickly ended the live.
Who is that on the side? Hey, I'm finna hang up, folks, because you got looking at me, folks. I'm finna hang up because you got looking at me, folks. You got looking at me, I'm finna hang up.
I don't want to see nothing. See what? See what?
I want to see their face.
I don't got nothing for them to see.
Out.
I don't got nothing.
He going to front his shit.
But before that, Kyro made it clear that he had no beef with the new people around Dre, hinting that Dre was scared of a Lakeside member named Lil Jon who had a tough reputation. During the live, Kyro even brought in another No Limit member named Magic who didn't seem to take Dre seriously. While getting a haircut, Magic asked who KTS Vaughn was, poking fun at Dre's crew.
They tripping, folks.
You already just took your way last time.
Hey, sleeping, gang. I came from Simon good.
You getting a cut? You finna get a cut?
Yeah,
Kyro kept the insults coming, saying he preferred to settle things in the DMs, but hinted that Dre, still on house arrest, was too scared to face him in prison. Meanwhile, Dre was firing back in the comments, calling No Limit a bunch of and saying that the people Kyro was around weren't the original gang members. The whole back and forth seemed petty, but Kyro did make one point. He admitted that beefing on Instagram Live was so 2014. The only reason he was even doing it, he said, was because he liked Dre.
That's some shit he was doing in 2014, going live with each other and shit like that. I really ain't on that no more. I just did that because I like you.
It's wild to think that all this time had passed since their infamous run-in at McDonald's, yet they were still going at it. If you didn't know, KTS Dre and Vaughn went viral years ago after a video showed them confronting No Limit members at a McDonald's. During the incident, Dre punched a then 14-year-old Kyro in the face before walking outside.
Say fuck what?
What? Say it. Hey, ain't no unzipping or nothing.
Say fuck what?
Shorty said, get out with it. Don't be scared, little fuck. Don't be scared, little fuck.
Oh,
Damn.
Word on the street was that the same 14-year-old Kyro came out after them and opened fire on Dre's crew. It's crazy to think about how long this beef had been simmering. You'd wonder why they would still be going back and forth years later. But despite all the time that had passed, the feud between Lakeside and No Limit was still raging. Both sides kept losing lives as the violence continued. By 2019, things escalated even further. No Limit found themselves in a violent conflict with a new enemy, Death Row, a crew with family ties to Lakeside. On August 11th, Malcolm Sabbs, better known as Mook, from the Death Row crew found himself in a tragic and deadly situation. It was around 1:35 a.m. when Mook was standing on a sidewalk along South Exchange Avenue. Out of nowhere, a group of men approached him on foot and opened fire. One of the bullets struck Mook in the head, and despite efforts to save him, he was later pronounced dead. The streets of Chicago witnessed yet another casualty in the relentless gang wars. But the violence didn't stop there. Just the next day, on August 12th, it seemed like No Limit's Willie, whose real name was Willie Washington, became the target of what appeared to be a retaliatory hit. Willie, only 18 years old, was standing on the sidewalk on South Phillips Avenue when a car pulled up. Two people jumped out, guns blazing, and shot him multiple times before speeding away. Willie was hit in the head and body and was pronounced dead by 8:52 a.m. As heartbreaking as it was, Willie's body lay in the street for an extended period, and during that time, members of the public took photos of his lifeless body. One grisly image of Willie lying face down began circulating on social media, further showcasing the brutal reality of Chicago's gang violence. Unfortunately, the bloodshed didn't stop there. Just 2 days later, No Limit lost another key member. Kenneth Summers, better known as Magic, and the cousin of No Limit's Mad Max, was standing next to a car on South Essex Avenue, just 1 block away from where Willie had been offed. A dark-colored vehicle drove by and shots were fired at the group of people standing by the car. Magic was struck in the head and was later pronounced dead at the hospital, marking yet another devastating loss for No Limit. Amid all of this, KTS Dre was dealing with legal issues of his own. Dre had caught a charge and ended up in jail for a short stint, but by December 2020, he was back home, and as soon as he got out, he went live on social media to make sure everyone knew he wasn't hiding. Dre openly stated that he didn't want to leave Chicago and was still actively shooting his ops while fighting court cases.
We ain't shooting from no car, we just trying to get closer. Talking about, am I in a rap? I just had court Cook County today.
In typical Dre fashion, he told his enemies to stop threatening him and just come K-word him if they really wanted to, making it clear he wasn't backing down.
Sooner or later. Sooner than later, y'all. I'm tired of this shit. Come take me out this shit, cause I can't take it no more. Y'all be me off with that shit. Y'all been threatening me for 20 years, bro.
During that live session, someone brought up the infamous McDonald's video involving No Limit Kyro, but Dre downplayed the whole thing, acting like he didn't even know who Kyro was.
Explain the video of you punching Kyro. Who the f is Kyro, bro? Who the f is that?
Despite this, it was obvious Dre still had No Limit on his mind. That same month, he dropped a song with KTS Rio called NLMBK Part 2, which took aim at No Limit and even seemed to diss G Herbo. Dre made it clear in his lyrics that he was still out on the block, unlike rappers who only pretend to be gangsters for the fame. Dre continued to talk openly on social media, calling out his rivals and speaking on different beefs. On February 5th, 2021, he went live again, this time mentioning No Limit's Lil Wet and some alleged K-ings that followed the death of his father. Dre claimed that the 4 men who were offed after his father's passing were innocent and had nothing to do with his father's emder. Later in February 2021, on the 28th, KTS Dre and Kyro went live on Instagram once again, picking up their ongoing beef. Kyro kicked things off by accusing Dre of sneak dissing him on another page.
I see that they just sent me that page, but you and dude sneak dissing on me.
Who sneak this?
That you in that video, Goofy.
Man, I don't even think about niggas that said on the live.
The situation quickly escalated as Kyro pressed Dre about allegedly talking down on him, saying all Kyro was known for was getting beaten up at McDonald's. Kyro, clearly fed up, wanted Dre to acknowledge that he was known for more than just that one incident, but Dre wasn't about to give Kyro any credit, refusing to admit that he knew Kyro for anything gangster.
I want you to stamp it on one of your homies. I ain't trying to be disrespectful, none of that.
I'm gonna put this on my homies on Cutthroat Gang, on the whole gang, every last one. I don't know none gangster, no gangster shit about you.
The back and forth kept heating up, throwing accusations right back, claiming Kyro was lying about chasing him off the block. Things took a serious turn when Kyro asked Dre to swear on his brother's life that he never ran from No Limit. That question hit a nerve, and Dre started bringing up Kyro's dead friends, a low blow that only fueled the tension.
Hey, put it on your brother that you never ran for no nigga, No Limit.
Stop saying my brother. Stop saying my brother. You don't get to say you ain't.
I'm just saying. Why you
no,
still ain't
you
saying?
Put it on Rock. I ever ran from you.
Put it on anybody that you never ran from.
Put it on
us.
one of your homies I ever ran from you.
You ain't had to run from me.
Okay, put it on your homies I ever ran from the other who got on live.
They continued to go back and forth, with Dre insisting he had made No Limit run countless times. Kyro pushed Dre one last time, asking if he could at least admit hearing something gangster about him, but Dre wasn't budging.
On what?
I never
On
ran
what,
from you.
nigga? Merch, put that on.
I only sent you one time.
Never ran from me.
I only sent you one time in person. And that was that day, and I ain't even run that day. So you never heard my name and no gang with your homies, any of your homies. I want you to put it on any.
I ain't gonna lie to you. Listen to me. No, folks.
At the time of this call, Dre was still on house arrest for an earlier charge, which involved a wild incident where he allegedly wrestled a cop for a gun during a traffic stop. That situation had already violated his bond conditions, sending him back to Cook County Jail in June of 2021. But by July, Dre was eligible for bail, and on July 10th, his girlfriend posted his bond securing his release. Dre had to put up $5,000 and was required to wear an ankle monitor as part of his bail conditions. Unfortunately, Dre never made it home to serve out his house arrest. On the very day he was leaving Cook County Jail, July 10th, 2021, as he walked out around 8:50 p.m., a car pulled up, and two men fired a hail of bullets at him. Dre was struck a total of 64 times. The sheer brutality of the attack shocked even those accustomed to Chicago's violence, with police marking dozens of evidence points around the crime scene. Dre, whose real name was Londre Sylvester, was pronounced dead soon after the ambush, with the news of his emder quickly spreading across TV and social media.
A man named Londre Sylvester was leaving the jail. He went by the rap name KTS Dre. He'd just been bailed out, and police say he was ambushed by two men who got out of a vehicle near the jail. Sylvester was shot as many as 64 times.
But before this tragic end, KTS Dre was just another product of his environment, a young boy who fell victim to the dangerous streets he grew up in. Born on April 6th, Dre, also known as Cutthroat Draco, or simply KTS Dre, was raised on Chicago's east side around 79th and Marquette Avenue, the heart of Lakeside GD's territory. Lakeside would later become known as Lolo World or Pasto Gang, in memory of fallen members. Dre jumped off the porch at an early age, getting involved in the streets, where he earned a reputation as a fearless fighter who always stood his ground. Back then, the entire east side would hang out in areas like Pockettown and Lakeside long before the streets turned into the war zone they are today. Dre wasn't alone in the streets. He had an older brother named Earl, and younger brothers Vinny, KJ, and KTS Vaughn, who also became well-known steppers and rappers in their own right. Earl was the first to get deeply involved in the gang lifestyle, with Dre and his younger brothers following closely in his footsteps. Dre's family was his top priority, and despite the chaos of his life, he was incredibly close to his siblings. His cousin Zico, real name Isaiah Walker, was originally from Pockettown but later joined the infamous 051 Young Money gang, becoming a well-respected member. Dre's three younger brothers had a different father, Vincent Davis Sr., better known as Big Vinny, an OG from E-Block Crazy, a set of the conservative Vice Lords. Though Dre had a different biological father known as Shy City Jeff, Big Vinny treated him like his own, reinforcing the strong family ties Dre valued. Growing up, Dre was always surrounded by big figures in the gang world, including Lil Les, a member allegedly responsible for the emder of Jarvis Smith, who would later have the Jaro City set named in his honor. Lil Les was arrested in 2007 on 2 counts of aggravated battery with a firearm and is still fighting to clear his name based on what he claims is manipulated testimony. Just like his brother Rico Clark, he was falsely convicted of emder in March 2007, just a week after his daughter was born. He was one of many who fell victim to corrupt detectives like Brian Forberg and Kevin Eberly. These detectives had a reputation for twisting witness accounts, fabricating testimony, and tampering with evidence, which led to the wrongful convictions of 19 people, mostly men of color. This pattern has been exposed through numerous civil lawsuits and ongoing appeals. The injustice that hit Rico was part of the same system Dre found himself up against, even though Dre was deep in the streets with a long criminal record. Dre's run-ins with the law started when he was just 18. On May 20th, he got arrested for the first time, facing minor charges. It began with things like gambling and trespassing, but as the years passed, things escalated. He was involved in mob action, battery, selling drugs, and a string of other offenses. In October 2020, he was caught up in the viral McDonald's incident, the one that made him and KTS Vaughn internet sensations. That year, Dre had plans to kickstart his music career, but the streets had other ideas. He was too busy applying pressure on his enemies, making money from hustling, and dealing with the constant chaos of gang life. His dedication to the streets kept him from focusing on music, a path that could have changed his life. Dre wasn't the only one in his family caught up in this lifestyle. His younger brother KTS Vaughn had a similar story. Vaughn had the talent to make it in the music game, but just like Dre, he couldn't get out of the streets long enough to focus on it. At one point, Dre even mentioned that Vaughn had connections with big-name rappers like Future and was starting to build a buzz. It could have been a sign for both of them to leave the streets behind and chase success in music, but that's not how things played out. Dre was too caught up in the streets to turn his focus to music. 2012 was a wild year for him. It was the same year when someone tried to take his life. Dre was shot in the head on the 7800 block around 5 p.m. and he was rushed to Oak Lawn Medical Center. Miraculously, he survived the attack, but it left him with lasting scars, including the noticeable bump on his nose and his lazy eye, which came from that bullet. That close call didn't stop Dre though. He kept going hard in the streets, refusing to back down. In 2014, Dre's younger brother Vincent Davis Jr., also known as KTS Vinny, was convicted of firearm possession and aggravated battery. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison, and things only got worse from there. The next 2 years were a dark time for Dre and his family. On June 23, 2015, his brother KTS Vaughn, at just 21 years old, was shot over 25 times and died at the scene. Dre was devastated by this loss. Vaughn's death made the ongoing war even more intense. Dre was seen in music videos with his brother like No Love, Street Life, and K to Survive. But losing Vaughn was a blow that cut deep. It fueled the fire in the war between their enemies, and the cycle of violence only got worse.
When Vaughn got bro, that's when turned up. Like, I don't see how be saying, like, that's what I be hearing a lot of niggas say, look, I hear a lot of this KTS shit died with Vaughn.
On October 29, 2015, just shy of 2 months after KTS Dre's brother was murdered, Dre found himself in more trouble. Cops tried to pull over a car with a revoked license plate, which led to a high-speed chase. The car eventually came to a stop, and both the driver, Levon Harper, and Dre, who was in the passenger seat, took off running. Dre resisted arrest during the foot chase, and an officer named Jonas got hurt in the process, forcing the use of a taser to subdue Dre. Both men were arrested, and during the search, police found 2 guns in the car, a Smith & Wesson with a tampered serial number and a Colt 45. This would result in Dre being locked up for 3 years. But even while locked up, Dre stayed true to his reputation. He continued repping his gang behind bars, never backing down from confrontation. He'd press people about where they were from, especially asking if they were from No Limit, and it often led to fights. Dre's life behind bars was as intense as it was in the streets. While Dre was in prison, tragedy struck his family yet again. In 2016, his stepfather, Vincent Davis Sr., also known as Big Vinny, was murdered in broad daylight. It happened around 4:30 p.m. while Big Vinny was sitting in a car with a 22-year-old woman on South Michigan Avenue. A man named Devontae Murray, also known as KTS Rasta, approached the car and opened fire, KOing Big Vinny on the spot. Murray was arrested 2 weeks later and eventually pleaded guilty to murder and attempted murder. It turned out that Murray blamed Big Vinny for his brother's death and wanted revenge, which led to the fatal shooting. For Dre, it seemed like his life was being ripped apart piece by piece. He had already lost his cousin Zico in 2008, his close friend Pasto in 2013, and then his brother KTS Vaughn in 2015. Now with his stepfather's death in 2016, it was clear that Dre had experienced a series of devastating losses. It's no surprise that all these events pushed Dre deeper into the reckless, violent life he was already leading. It's like life threw every challenge at him, leaving him with little choice but to fight back, even if that meant being even more aggressive in the streets. Unfortunately, this path would also lead to his own tragic demise. After Dre's death, his sister publicly stated that that someone must have tipped off his location. His mother even expressed fear that it was too dangerous to hold a funeral for him, worried that rivals would show up and turn the memorial into another violent scene. Ironically, this fear wasn't baseless, as it was said that KTS members had done something similar in the past, targeting rivals from No Limit at their funerals. With that history in mind, it's no shock that following Dre's emder, members of No Limit mocked his death endlessly. Social media was filled with posts from his enemies celebrating the fact that one of their most feared rivals was now off the streets. Although it's unclear who exactly was responsible for Dre's death, one thing is obvious: the beef between Lakeside and No Limit had escalated to a point of no return. Dre's life had always been marked by violence, and in a city like Chicago, it was unlikely that he would have ever lived to see old age. Despite his death, this deadly cycle of revenge didn't come to an end. Even with Dre gone, the war raged on, with an endless supply of enemies on both sides continuing to fuel the fire. Family members, friends, and associates of Dre's crew and No Limit alike remained locked in a deadly battle, determined to keep the bloodshed going. Sadly, this feud shows no signs of stopping, with both sides taking losses and seeking revenge to this very day.